Hey, what's up everybody? It's so good to see you again. It's been quite a while, hasn't it? Quite a lot has happened in the last year, but that's the topic for another day. Today I want to talk about Decaf Espresso, how to best approach it, the method that I've been using as of late, and why I think that espresso is the best method, period, for making great decaf. And before we get started, I'll admit that I've come a pretty long way with decaf myself. I remember the early days on bar working as a barista, spending my mornings carefully dialing in our espresso blend, among other things to get the shop open for the day. And honestly, just forgetting about decaf until an order came in and then scrambling to make it, good enough, which was never really that good, actually. And it wasn't until years later that a friend of mine who was working for Passenger Coffee at the time suggested that I pull decaf shots much faster, around 19 seconds. And he said that this was because decaf is more soluble than regular coffee and needs less time to extract. And I thought this was super interesting, but I still didn't fully understand why it worked, and eventually slipped back into my old habits of pulling decaf similarly to regular coffee and getting subpar results. And this past year, I was very involved in opening catalog coffee here in Baltimore and wanted to make sure that our decaf offering was just as good as our regular coffee. I knew I wanted to make it to order on the espresso bar, and I wanted to use my friend Justin's method. So let's get into the reasons why this recipe works before discussing the recipe itself and pulling a shot. So first is the concept of solubility that I mentioned earlier. Decaf is much more soluble than regular coffee, primarily due to the way that it's processed. And I'll link below some resources that more thoroughly explain this, but generally before decaf is roasted and it's still green, it's decaffeinated by being submerged in a solvent, which is either water or alcohol based, in order to extract the caffeine. This solvent is then washed away and the caffeine is separated out. Coffee is rehydrated again with the solvent so that it can absorb back any flavor that it may have lost in the process, besides the caffeine, of course. And it's this process of being washed, sometimes several times, that slightly breaks down the green coffee. It's then dehydrated again before being shipped out to roasters for roasting, packaging, and then being sold to us. After decaf coffee is roasted, it becomes more brittle relative to regular coffee. And that's important because it will affect how the coffee is ground. Grinding decaf even with very good grinders will result in the creation of more fines. If you've ever brewed a pour-over of decaf and watched it stall halfway through the brew, or if you've ever brewed espresso that appeared to pull quite quickly at first only to slow down to just drops, very slow drops by the end of the extraction, this is why. So you could, of course, shift out the fines from your grounds if you wanted to, but if that feels tedious or wasteful, I kind of think it's both, then grinding a few steps coarser and aiming for a faster brew time will help mitigate excess fines. And yes, you may need to updose slightly by about a gram or so to get the flow right. And speaking of flow, you've most likely noticed the Flair 58 behind me, which I'm going to use to demonstrate this recipe on. It's very, very helpful if you have a machine with flow control to achieve the best results, but I've also had great shots on machines with vibratory pumps going at 6 or 9 bar the whole way through. Okay, and one last thing. The decaf pull doesn't look pretty at all if you're using bottomless portafilter. Please, just don't worry about it. It's fine. Now I'm starting with 20 grams of coffee, which is about a gram higher than I'd normally roll for the Flair, using an 18 gram VST precision basket. I'm going to recommend an output of between 50 and 60 grams depending on your taste and what style of coffee that you like. Again, we're looking for a brew time around 19 seconds, so the grind should be fairly coarse, but still definitely in the espresso range. If you don't have flow control, then a standard pull is all you need for a delicious decaf. But if you do have flow control, I recommend starting the brew at 6 bar, running 6 bar until 10 seconds have passed, which should be the halfway point of the shot by weight, and then reduce to 3 bar for the remainder of the extraction. This is what we've been rolling with at Catalog and has yielded great espressos suitable for drinking on their own, and at the same time still hold up well for making Americanos and large milk drinks if that is your thing. Okay, so that one wasn't too bad in terms of mess. It did get my mirror quite a bit. I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty gnarly, but it's okay. Let's taste. This is a Colombian ethyl alcohol processed decaf. I did pull a couple of seconds longer, so this was about 20 seconds, 21 seconds right on the line. Got a lot of body. It's very sweet. This is an interesting coffee because there's like a very heavy tropical fruit aspect to it. And it's kind of hard to tell, like, is this coffee sour or is it just like very, very fruity in like a very tropical way that's like very like sour kind of fruit? And I think that that's what it is. Because as it's cooling, it's actually like kind of rounding out, getting sweeter, the acidity is mellowing out. It's kind of turning into like some more of like a juicy fruit kind of thing. It's very pleasant. I could sit here and drink this until it's gone, and probably drink it when it's room temperature too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this recipe. So that's it for me with Decaf Espresso. I hope that you give this a try, or at least share it with somebody who might find it interesting. I think it's a really excellent way to get the most out of decaf. And please leave a comment below if you have a favorite decaf method and it's not this. I would definitely love to hear about it. I'd really like this channel to be a place to share ideas and try new recipes, especially for decaf drinkers who really just like don't get the love that they deserve. Cheers, y'all. Until next time.